Temples are a two-colored land cycle that enter the battlefield tapped, but have an upside of Scry 1 when they enter. These lands first appeared in the Magic the Gathering set Theros, which released on September 27, 2013. Looking back on the standard decks of the past, we can see that these lands were immediately popular for decks that wanted to splash into other colors, and even after they rotated out of standard, they remained a commander staple for years to come. Looking at the price history of these lands, we can see that despite fluctuation due to something like a dual deck reprint or an increase in play, these lands have largely remained between $1.50 to $4 in cost. Prior to 2019, they had not been reprinted in a truly meaningful way, but it now seems that after the recent printings of Temples in Core 2020, Theros Beyond Death, and now Core 2021, that another set will contain Temples in the future. But what is that set? And how in the world are Temples now bulk rares? For years, a return to Theros has been suspected by many players. Despite a weaker card pool, the standout cards of the set were nothing short of powerful. The gods still to this day are some of the most beloved commanders, and god packs were a huge success.
Another... Oh my gosh.
So it's no surprise that wizards and fans alike wanted a return to this plane. When the Temples were spoiled for Core 2020, it became clear that the time for a return to Theros was upon us. However, this return would not come for about 6 more months as players first ventured to the plane of Eldraine.
So he bought a pack and read the lore, and felt like he was on a tour of the plane of Eldraine, I guess.
All of this would not be possible without the elimination of 2 set blocks. For years, standard sets would come in 2s. This was true for Zendikar, the return to Innistrad, Kaladesh, Amonkhet, and of course, Ixalan. This is a period in Magic's history that spans almost 2.5 years. These sets also seem to have some of the most bulk rares of any sets in a while, but many also contained a version of masterpieces, which were again wildly popular. But these sets seem not to be able to get new players to stay in the game. This obviously doesn't mean that no new player came into the game, but personally Kaladesh was a single block where I played the least Magic since coming into the game with the release of Core 2015. But the point I'm making is that the sets at this time did not have a special draw to them that a lot of other sets had for players. This can be seen in the collection I just purchased for a random buy video coming up soon. It's all Shadows over Innistrad and Kaladesh cards, purchased by the friend of the past owner of this collection to get them into the game. And it's mine now, so obviously that didn't work. In my own opinion, these sets had incredible theming to them, but the cards were very inconsistent. Again, a lot of these sets have great cards, and many players have great memories with these sets, but these blocks failed to fully capture players in the game, which in my opinion is what sparked the change to We Decide How Long We Reside, which is my catchy name for Wizards of the Coast chooses the number of sets in a block. This led to efficient reprinting of a wider variety of cards and more experimentation with card styles, as can be seen in Core 2020 itself. However, all of this just meant that when Core 2020 would be released on July 3rd, 2020, with Temples included, the prices for the Temples fell despite now being standard legal. Just 2 sets earlier, the reprinting of the Shocklands had been completed. Shocklands on the surface may seem odd, but in reality they are not only useful for mana fixing, but staples in almost every format. With a better land cycle already in standard and the new promo packs and collector's boosters handing out these cards left and right in all different versions, and then a reprint of the other 5 Temples in Theros Beyond Death, Temple prices took a dive. Some managed to hold value of almost $2 due to standard play, but others reached nearly $1, the lowest price they had been in years. And then Core 2021 spoiler season came. Already low temple prices were pushed down even more as Core 2021 temples were opened in mass numbers as box after box was cracked for Ugins, Grim Tutors, and Tefiris. In the meantime, temples that had once peaked at a respectful $6 or $7 were now down to a mere 52 cents. which I'm down with, by the way. Like, I'm going to pick up some of these using the TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. It's just like crazy they're so cheap. The reprints had done their job, and a rare standard land cycle is finally cheap enough to afford for almost all players. But at this point in time, where the other 5 temples are going to be reprinted is unknown. It presumably would be the set after the fall 2020 set Zendikar Rising. This assumption can be made from looking at last year. There was a core set in which we got half of the temples, then another set which was Throne of Eldraine, and then the rest of the temples, which were in Theros Beyond Death. But we know that Wizards are going to reprint these lands because otherwise why would they have reprinted the first half of them? However, the next set after Zendikar would presumably be a heavily themed world, like Eldraine or Theros, rather than a reprint fest like a core set, which makes it difficult to reprint these cards. See, the Theros block was inspired by Greek mythology, and unless we are going to go to another Greek plane, the reprint just wouldn't make sense. In the lore, why would there be temples to the Theros gods, or even just Greek temples on a plane that was, say, Gothic, or even Phyrexian? It's possible to see another Greek plane, but this seems unlikely given that Theros Beyond Death is already in Standard. Of course, that's assuming that the rest of the temples will even be reprinted. I'm not hip with all the lore, so I had to do some research for this next theory, but here is what I have. The next set is going to be, in my opinion, Fiora. Hang with me. This is the plane from the Conspiracy block, and it's the home of the fallen Dak Faden. It's possible, I suppose, that the Gatewatch needs something from this plane or are here because of a connection with Dak Faden. Liliana and Kaya have both been to this plane, and I believe Liliana ventured here during the War of the Spark book. It's entirely possible to work in a connection to this plane in the lore. I have to give credit to Meeple Master on Reddit for making me even think of this plane in the first place. But one of the main reasons I think this is possible, because it's a plane inspired by Italian architecture. And Italy, for those unaware, has Rome, which is very similar in belief to Greeks in terms of mythology. Greek and Roman mythology is commonly confused, and both use different names for the same gods. I think it's possible that we're going a Percy Jackson route here. But there are plenty of temples in Rome, it would just make sense. Plus, this is a wildly popular plane. Additionally, if the Monarch mechanic was to return to Standard, it could help out the decks that need it, the Boros aggro decks that are struggling right now. That's right, put the Monarch mechanic in Boros. It just seems to fit the color pie exactly like Wizards wants. Plus, Commander would love the mechanic returning, especially white. It's combat-based card draw. The idea may seem crazy to you, as it did to me, but Build Your Own Beast and comic book arts also seemed absolutely insane when I heard them at first. At the end of the day, Fiora got its first call out in the War of the Spark novel that it's had in years. Is that just a coincidence? I'm not sure. We haven't seen that much of Fiora, so it's entirely possible that Fiora is the next plane we will see in Standard and bring with it the completion of Standard temples. I might be looking like an idiot in a few weeks or a few months, or Wizards of the Coast is going to decide that they don't need to reprint the rest of the temples, but if they do, I believe that Fiora is the next plane we're going to visit with a Magic the Gathering set based on the temples alone. And if you want to pick up temples, please do so using the TCG Player link in the description of this video because it helps the channel grow a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.